Yeah. I'm back in whatever. Top of the road and home with rain. Really good to have this. I had a good fall. Weather's up and down. So sometimes it feels like it, sometimes not, but we're certainly coming into that time of the year where holiday season is the best time of the year. There's so much to be grateful for as a club and as a community, as a country. I wish for you is to take our quality time together and wonderful Thanksgiving. Telephone comments. Hopefully I'll do my 1 week off this year. Had an annual conference needed to go to, wanted to go to, and I just appreciate stepping in. Clearly, you all are in for better days this year with the press, so it's making excellent. And our program, definitely, we're excited to hear the story of stuff here from you, so we appreciate you being here. So before we go into our program, ask Seth Hudson, we got an invitation, and you can move on the play. Thank you. So we're fortunate to have guests today. I'm going to ask you to introduce.
It is my pleasure to introduce. Please stand when your name is called and remain standing until all names are introduced. Our first guest is Tom Humphrey from the Rotary Club of Auburn. Guest Zachary Taylor. Next is Bart Christian. Next we have Taylor Giglio. GRSP. Guest of Carlton Wood. Next we have Rex Hill. Guest of Terry Bites. And last we have Nicole Sonreger with Brownswell and energy programmers, and he is with
Some of you will be joining the club, excited about that. And some of the others, the rest of you, we asked you to come. It's a friendly group. We have good programs and we do good work together. So again, we'd love to have you with us. So we do have a handful of birthdays and anniversaries to announce. We have no age, so not ready for wedding season. So birthday, it's a boom. What is something? Just this is a good one. Okay. All right, we're thinking about you this week, Sandra. So on November 18th, the birthday to be on for the big one. There, November 22nd. Happy birthday. It's November 22nd. Wish you all a happy birthday. We're thinking about you this week. Club member anniversaries, Jeff Franklin, 9 years. It's a good opportunity to mention. We need to do this from time to time. Wonderful job we got for And speaking of people who had an outsized impact on Rotary, we're hitting things 40 years. So what a great way to do a handful of announcements. I want to start off, Carrie. I think you have a if you would come on.
We are going to start preparing the bags for the pre-K kid that we do with the book and all the other. If you are available at all, on Monday, not next week, and you can come to the chamber at 4:00. We'll be here definitely. So if you want to join us, we'll do that, and then we need to work. So we get those done and we'll be here. Except yes. And we'll also be sending out information to that, and maybe I can go sign up. But if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Please for that, plan to do and I think you'll benefit from being part of that. So then a scholarship program, GMC has the summer scholarship in the U of Iowa and so there's some stuff. There's one for each of our districts, so we have one scholarship right. Most of the expenses are covered and airplanes. So please let us know if you have family members who are students or local students who you think might be interested in it. Here's the where did something like this? Did that? So if you have questions about it, just you would come up and part of come up.
Okay, one of the most fun things about Art all day, he doesn't eat sugar. I have 2 cups. Okay, Bart Christian, First of all, he's been married to Melissa, has 2 grown children and 2 grandchildren. And how long have you been married? Okay. Okay, Bart Christian is the president of Southwest Training Systems, Inc. and BartChristian.com. He is also the co-founder of Food Controller Solutions, LLC, and School Food Manufacturing. He is an Amazon #1 best author. He's written the top-selling book series, Simple Solutions. His latest book, Simple Solutions for Personal Wellness, recently reached #1 on the Amazon bestseller list in personal growth and business development. Bart has over 30 years of experience in the field of management and training. The last 25 years been focused in the K-12 school nutrition market. He served at various levels of leadership on the executive boards of the Georgia and Arizona School Nutrition Associations, as well as various roles in the New Mexico SNA. Bart was recognized as 2010 Industry Member of the Year in Arizona. Southwest Training System started in 2000 and now services over 612 school nutrition sites throughout Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. As an SFS PAC partner, it has been recognized as a leader in the region for providing HCCC related and food safety education. Food safety. Food Handle Solutions is an online provider of ANSI accredited safety and sanitation programs, along with being a one-stop shop for USDA professional standards education focused exclusively on the needs of the K-12 school nutrition industry. Our company also provides strategic planning and consulting to entrepreneurs and business owners looking to find their business without selling. He has spoken to thousands in the education and food service on topics of leadership, communication, customer service, personal productivity, and food safety. His style and subtle humor combined hands-on experience have made him operated spirit and an audience favorite with the host. Please welcome our new member. His absence, I'll read the 4-way test. I will tell you, don't be upset about it. When they stand up and do the invocation and the also slide the 4-way test. It's like we do it every week. But, the 4-way test, you do with me. First, is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and friendships? Will it beneficial to all concerned? Congratulations for our resident.
Okay. Couple of announcements to share with you, and then we'll jump into our program. First of all, you don't have a meeting, so enjoy your time away. Enjoy. We have a volunteer opportunity for the Christmas parade on November 30th. We always show up in droves for that. We need even more people than usual. We have Mike Wilson and some members of his team in the yard, so we want to be there to support Mike. We also want to be there to support the Jungle Bus, who we historically have sponsored and supported. So please, I'll try to get you more information on that via email next week, but please just come. And of course, also hold on to the 24th for the annual conference. Love to have you there. Wouldn't that be all? We will remind everybody that the board will run after this, the board members want to make sure you, and also anybody who needs to make that. And so it'll be in front of you, set up to, let's jump into the pro, Kathy, you will come up, get yourself.
Excited to introduce Stephanie Steffi. I've heard her speak a couple of times and it was a real nice time. So I'm glad she's here today to talk to us. Stephanie is the chair of Stuckey's, known as a highway oasis to generations of Americans. Founded in 1937 by her grandfather, W.S. Stuckey Sr. in Eastern Georgia, Stuckey's grew into over 350 stores nationwide in the 1970s. But the company was sold and declined for decades under outside ownership. Fortunately, Stuckey's is making a comeback thanks to Stephanie and her business partners acquiring the brand in 2019. Today, Stuckey's owns and operates a manufacturing facility in Rennes, Georgia that makes pecan snacks and candies. In the past 3 years, sales have grown from $2 to $14 million, and retail customers have increased to several thousand. Stephanie received her BA and JD from the University of Georgia. She has worked as a trial lawyer, state representative, and director of sustainability for Atlanta. When she's not running Stuckey's, she enjoys road tripping in search of the world's largest ball of twine. Welcome to
Thank you, Kathy, for introducing me yet again. And most importantly, in my resume, which I should start including in my bio, is that I'm a fellow Rotarian. I'm a member of the Atlanta Rotary. So this week I've had 2 Rotary meetings, and I always enjoy getting some hookups as well. So thank you. And I realized I am wearing a flag in this photo. So I could have done pledge allegiance to me. I am honored to be speaking here, especially since I understand this is your 100th year. What an awesome achievement. I also understand that you had the president of my alma mater, Jerry Moorhead, speaking, and my former colleague in the Georgia legislature, Randy Nix, is going to be introducing former Governor Sonny Perdue, now chair of the Board of Regents. So no pressure at all. Today you get the purveyor of pecan log rolls and rubber alligators wear the flag hats. So this will be a little different from all of that. I'm going to start with a story. All right, I was told there's no clicker, but that I could advance this. If someone can, if you don't mind, just advance it for me, I guess. So I'll start with a story that happened to me about a year ago. I was in Oklahoma City, checking into a hotel late at night. Hotel was almost empty at that hour, except across from the lobby was a very active bar. And there must have been some conference because people were getting pretty rowdy. And I look over at the bar and there's this man near the end of the bar and he looks over at me and our eyes kind of meet and he looks like he knows me. He starts walking across the lobby with deliberate speed towards me and I'm getting very nervous because I do not know this man. He comes up to me and he gives me a hug. And then he gets back and he said, well, you don't know who I am, but I know you. I follow you on LinkedIn. And I want to thank you for saving a piece of my childhood. And that moment right there, I like to share that story because it encapsulates why I do what I do. And for those of you who are not familiar with our brand, and we're a comeback brand, so not everyone may remember Stuckey's. This is what the man was thanking me for. This probably could have been him. He seemed to be about of that age. of people who grew up road tripping and pulling over at Stuckey's. And what we had was really an experience. I'm going to tell you, for those of you who aren't familiar with our brand, or those of you who are but have wondered, well, what happened to you? Because we've had quite a gap. We are definitely a comeback brand. I'm going to tell you our story and some lessons that I learned, especially from my grandfather's story, that have helped me as I grow and revive the brand that he built. So next slide. This is when we were founded during the Great Depression as a roadside stand in Middle Georgia, Eastman, Georgia, our hometown. And there were very few jobs during that era, but one thing was prevalent in Middle Georgia during the Great Depression and still is today throughout Georgia, and that is pecans. We happen to be the #1 state for pecan production. Third of all pecans produced in the world come from the great state of Georgia. So it was a bumper crop year. He started selling pecans, and within a few months, he realized that he could sell even more pecans. Where's Bart, who just joined? No disrespect. My grandmother started making candy. And yeah, and we do sell raw pecans. Talk to me afterwards, I can give you a deal. But my grandmother started making pecan candy. She did pralines and fudge and divinity, and the product that we're still known for to this day, the pecan log roll. And thank you, the Rotary, for providing those for everyone. By the way, feel free to open one if you want to snack on a pecan log roll while I'm talking. The crinkling of packaging will not disturb me at all. It sounds like applause to me. So feel free to snack away. So next slide. Within a few years, my grandfather was able to grow his company from that roadside stand to the first Stuckey's store. And next slide. After that, he grew it even more. And he was a great entrepreneur, and like all entrepreneurs, he solved problems that people had. And back then, there was no reliable place to pull over if you were on a road trip. So he offered clean restrooms, ice cold water. He used to advertise cold water. I love that. And quick food for families on the go. And of course, we sold great, fun, kitschy souvenirs. We had the rubber alligators, coconut statues, seashell wind chimes, gator head, ashtray shaped like toilets that say "Put your butts here." We sold it, people loved it. And so he really built what became the first roadside retail chain. Before there was Racetrack or Wawa or Love's or Buc-ee's, there was Stuckey's. And he built a great business. So throughout his story, I saw that he had moments of crisis. And every time he had a crisis, he actually learned from it and built back stronger. So that's one of the most important things I learned from him. So the first lesson I learned, next slide, happened as a result of something catastrophic. And that was the US highway system that came along in 1956. I see some heads nodding. A lot of people thought this was a great innovation because suddenly we're able to get goods rapidly across the country at very affordable rates. The problem with that is that in the process, they bypassed small town America because before the interstate, many of you may recall, there was the Dixie Highway through Georgia. There was the Lincoln Highway, the Jefferson Highway, Route 66, and Stuckey's was on all of those roads along with hundreds and hundreds of other small businesses. So when the interstate came along, next slide, we went from this is how people used to road trip, and you go on vacation, nobody thought anything of getting in a car and driving for 5 days. That would be insane today. But when you went, you would drive through Main Street America, and you could pull over in these fun cafes and coffee shops and diners that were shaped like a giant teapot, and you would sleep in a wigwam motel. It was really fun, and it was an adventure. When the interstate came along, this is what we got. Next slide. Lovely, right? Asphalt, highways, monotony. And my grandfather's stores were all being bypassed by this. And he had to decide what he was going to do. Was he going to stake his ground and stay in small towns across the country on Main Street, but be bypassed by the highway, or was he going to move? And next slide. as many of you know, he moved. And I found this in his papers when I bought the company 4 years ago. And I love this. First of all, I love that they actually made a postcard of the stores. People would buy these postcards. And the other thing that I really love about it is what's written on it. Traveling on beautiful Interstate 80. I've been on I-80. I've also been on I-20, I-85, I-65, I-10. No disrespect if there's a road engineer in the crowd, I apologize. I don't think they're beautiful. That is not the first adjective that comes to my mind. But what's great about my grandfather's story is he found it beautiful. Not only did he find it beautiful, he made it beautiful for others. And he realized that this catastrophe that almost put him out of business was actually his greatest opportunity to build and grow the company even better. So when he picked up and moved to the interstate, he had an opportunity to completely change the design and look of his buildings. He got this architectural, beautiful design of keep there with the slope roofs that some may remember, the zigzag carports. If there's any architects in the room, you'll appreciate this, but even if you're not an architect, what I love was he had roadside convenience stores that I think that were beautiful works of art and design. You would walk in his stores and the ceiling was arched and there were chandeliers, not unlike the one you see in this room. It was this aha, amazing, breathtaking moment. So he wanted to create an experience, even if you were just pulling over on the side of the road to fill up with gas and use the restroom. He made it fun. So this was his opportunity to create something really special and unique. And an experience that was something otherwise very monotonous, taking a road trip on this asphalt road. He made it really fun. So next slide. This is an example, some of the photos I found. People taking their Sunday drive. So in the communities where he was, Stuckey's was still part of the community. So people would pull over and they would dress up and go to Stuckey's and have a snack. I love these ladies. I wish I had that hat, by the way. Next slide. This is one of my favorites. They reflected the community. So if you went to a Stuckey's in Virginia, you'd find Virginia hams. If you went to a Stuckey's in Florida, you would find gator heads and fresh citrus. If you went to a Stuckey's in Texas, you would get cowboy hats. So there was consistency in the design, there was consistency in quality, there was consistency in service, but there was also something special and unique about every single store that had a sense of community and belonging in place. And that was reflected in the merchandise and the feel of the store. So this store happened to be in Altamont, Illinois, where there was a huge German population, and every year they had an Oktoberfest. It was the only Stuckey's where you could get beer. It's probably not allowed today, but back then they served beer and everyone dressed up. Next slide. And this is one that I think is really fun. Some of the stores had talking mynah birds. So you would go in and you get a mynah bird. Now, that's definitely no longer around today. Apparently the Food and Drug Administration had some issues and cut that out, but what fun. And this is the only photo I could find of the talking mynah birds. What I love about it is it was a group from India that had come all the way to the United States to experience American culture, so they take them to a Stuckey's. How great is that? And in the photo, it took me a while to figure out, but no one looked super excited. And I think, how fun and cool is that? There's a talking mynah bird. Then someone pointed out to me that mynah birds are native to India. So they came all the way to the US to get something exotic and, you know, they get something that's like a pigeon back where they are. So next slide. So that's the comeback lesson number 2 that I learned from my grandfather. You create a sense of place and belonging. By the way, this is the wrong slide deck, but it's okay. I did a slide deck for Rotary that focused on something different for lesson 2, but that's okay. Next slide. So the most important lesson I learned from my grandfather is to have a sense of purpose. And that really is why that man approached me in the lobby, and that's why our brand is still alive today, is because my grandfather had values that he applied to everything he did with our business. And any of you, if you run a business, if you're an organization, if you're in government, you know there's nothing more important than having a sense of mission and purpose. So for us, his purpose was every traveler is a friend. And what that meant was that anyone who came in contact with that brand, if you were an employee, if you were a customer, if you were a vendor, you were treated with warmth and respect. And nowhere was that more evident than during the era of racial segregation, because Stuckey's was one of the few places in the Deep South, especially on the highways, where anyone could go. We were never segregated. And if you see the movie, The Green Book, which is about that era and about that time and that experience, there's a scene at a Stuckey's. I'm a little biased. It's the best scene in the movie, but there's a scene at Stuckey's for that reason. Another story I want to tell about that is sort of a fast forward 30 years, and I'm running for re-election to the Georgia legislature. And my district was dramatically changed during redistricting from being majority white to majority black. As part of my effort to try to win re-election, it was a very tough campaign for me. I was running against the head of the local NAACP. The most influential African-American leader in the community was my opponent. And I went to seek the support of the most influential African-American preacher in the community. And I remember he asked me to worship with him, which I did. And during the sermon, he looks down at me and he says, there's about 400 people here. And he said, Sister Stuckey is with us today, and she has agreed to come up and give us some words of inspiration. Well, I had not agreed to give them inspiration. But as Randy knows, when you're called upon, you get up in the pulpit. So I did, and I remember I was so nervous because not only were there about 300, 400 people there, but I was the only white person there. I was definitely being pushed out of my comfort zone. And I looked at the woman next to me and I said, what do I say? What do I do? And she said, honey, just say, praise Jesus, a lot. So I get up in the pulpit and I said, praise Jesus, and everyone said, praise Jesus. So it was nice. It was a little bit of a response from the audience, the congregation. Afterwards, I'm feeling pretty good about things, and I go see the minister, although I'm fairly confident he's going to say he's not endorsing me. And I sit down with my game face on, and he said, Stephanie, I'm going to endorse you. And I thought, wow, I must have really done a great job with my remarks in the pulpit. And he said, no, that is not why I'm endorsing you. He said, I am endorsing you because of your grandfather. I am endorsing you because your family stores always accepted people who look like me, who look like my congregation, who look like my family. That's why I'm endorsing you. And that is purpose, right? Purpose is going to live on decades after you're gone. And purpose is the reason why I'm standing in front of you today, as opposed to practicing law and doing something else. That's why our business has survived. Next slide. By the way, I won that election with over 70% of votes. So, thanks to my grandfather. So you can't have a comeback without a setback. And ours was pretty bad. There's a trifecta of bad stuff. I'm just going to go over it pretty quickly. But my grandfather sold a company, made a lot of money, seemed like a good idea at the time. But then that company, Pet, got bought out by another company, got bought out by another company. We were a subsidiary of a subsidiary of a subsidiary. They started selling off all of our assets. And it's a hot mess. Next slide. So fast forward 50 years, I'm minding my own business. I'm living in my sustainability bubble. I've been head of sustainability for the city of Atlanta. I'm an environmental attorney. I'm saving the world from climate change. I'm quite happy with my career choice. I get the unexpected opportunity to buy Stuckey's, which at the time was 6 figures in debt. And it cracked me up when the local paper, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, ran this article, and the headline was Heiress, drives family legacy. Heiress. I think Paris Hilton, or the Kardashians, right? People who actually inherit wealth, like a hotel chain with billions of dollars. I got a pecan log roll empire, so to speak. So let me show you what I inherited. Next slide. This is what our stores used to look like. Next slide. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. This is the original store in Eastman, Georgia. It's long shuttered. Even worse, next slide. Some of the stores, they're still standing. That's the good news, but they bring excitement and fun of a whole different kind. Some of you may take a minute to see what that is, but we've got quite a few of the old Stuckies that are porn shops. Okay, next slide. And some stuff, oh, okay, I thought there was another slide. Anyway, we used to have these beautiful billboards that were absolute works of art. Next slide. It's what a lot of those billboards look like today, if they're even standing. So of those original, my grandfather at our peak, we had 368 stores in 40 states. Today there are 12 stores in 10 states. We do not own or operate any of them. Next slide. Kind of a mess. What I inherited was a mess. This is what our candy looked like. We used to have a manufacturing plant back in the day. It was a wonderful, happy place. Next slide. That plant has long been shuttered. This is what our packaging looked like when I bought the company. All of our product was being outsourced and made by third-party manufacturers. The product and quality was terrible. Next slide. We used to have wonderful merchandise. Next slide. This empty racks with almost no product. That's right after I bought the company. Next slide. So this is me right after I bought the company. I decided I'm going to go on a road trip brand. I'm going to revive the stores. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I sunk my life savings into buying what was left of it. Didn't have any money left, but I'm going to go tour the stores. I'm going to figure it out. So it went okay. I was looking at the stores and they didn't look at all like my grandfather's day, but at least they were still around. Next slide. I had a really low moment. This was my low moment. Just like my grandfather had his key moment where he had to turn this around when the interstate was built. This was my moment. I pull over to this one store in Marion, Arkansas. It looked awful, had a hole in the roof, and I did something super mature. I sat in the parking lot and I started crying. No fun. And my son was with me. I remember he looked at me and he said, "Mom, this is my inheritance, huh?" Yeah. So, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to make this store look awesome. I'm going to post something fun on social media. So next slide, this is what I posted. I have a dashboard Jesus, and I'm like, look at the Jesus, do not look at this store. But the amazing thing about that moment was it actually turned out to be my come to Jesus moment. Because when I walked in the store, you know what I saw? It was filled with people, and they were buying stuff. That went back to what my grandfather had done. So next slide. I talked to the man and I asked him, "Why are you here?" And I'm paraphrasing. I took a photo of us. This is what he told me. Maybe we'd seen better days, but he remembered how the company was back in our heyday. So, like I said, this is the most important thing. If you only remember one thing I say, the most valuable currency any of us can have is how we make other people feel. That's why we survived. So not only did I remember, like, yes, that moment said there's still a there. This gave me hope that I can revive this brand, but also something super practical. I realized that store had people in it and they were buying stuff. So I didn't have the money it was going to take to revive even those dozen stores that were named, but I could start making product again. That's one thing I learned in government. I knew how to get government money, and there's government financing for manufacturing in rural America. So like my grandfather, I had to embrace change and I had to pivot and turn things around. So what we did, next slide, was we got in the manufacturing business. So I had to embrace change, but also respect the past. We started as a pecan stand on the side of the road. So we're reinventing the brand the way we started as a pecan snack brand. And we're also doing it in a way that's respectful of the past, but also a fresh way. I love the new packaging. That is my grandfather's signature, by the way. He went into fonts. I absolutely love the style of that. Next slide. And I'm almost done. I'll have some questions. But we're still about creating community. My grandfather always used local beauty queens, because if you belong to a community and you have a Miss Gum Spirits at Turpentine, isn't that a wonderful way to celebrate place, right? And you want to see your Miss Fidelia Onion in the local ads in your local paper. So that's what he did. He created a sense of place and community and belonging. And so I'm continuing that tradition. That's me trying to be dressed like Oliver Hardy at the Harlem, Georgia Oliver Hardy Festival. That's his hometown, and all the local beauty queens. This is what our company used to look like. This was community back then, and we're rebuilding, and obviously we're a community that's more diverse and looks more like our actual community, and we're elevating employees and creating pathways to prosperity. In the past 4 years, we've gone from less than 10 employees to 100 during peak season, 75 year round. Next slide. And I'm almost done. So the most important thing is that every traveler is still a friend. So some things don't change. You do have to embrace change. You have to pivot. You have to recognize the reality of your situation to survive, but at the same time, stay true to your core values. And that's the most important thing of all. And this is my last slide with my contact. This is my slide that just kind of sums up what I believe. And it's not just what I believe, it's what we've been infusing to reinvent the Stuckey's brand. So it is 100% working. I'm not going to read that. I'll let y'all read it. Other than comebacks are possible. You can lose everything, and through grit and hard work, get it back again. So maybe I didn't inherit wealth, but you know what I did inherit? I inherited values, and I inherited grit. And it is absolutely working. Our company has gone from 2 million to almost 14 million in sales in the past 3 years. We've gone from 9 to 75 employees. And we've gone from the AJC, I love the AJC, but we were on the New York Times front page of the business section on Sunday and on the Today Show. So it's working, but we're not doing it alone. We're doing it thanks to community, people like you who hear our story and share our story. And I'll just close by saying every traveler is a friend. Thank you for being our friend, and thank you for listening.
How does the inflation and the rising interest rate affect
Well, we have a government loan through the SBA, and it's a variable rate. So obviously those interest rates are affecting us. We're in the process of doing a refinance through the USDA that's offering a fixed rate loan. So we've had to refi, and it's harder to get capital. We're in the process of expanding our facility, and getting the financing together has been a challenge. One of the biggest challenges has been the government shutdowns and the uncertainty with that. If you're in line to get government money, we were in the pipeline to get a USDA loan, and that program was cut. So then we had to pivot and go to another loan program. So, it's challenging. Times are tough if you're in small business. The other thing we've done is we've had to raise our rates like everyone else. So our prices are higher, but the great thing is when you're in manufacturing, you can control your costs better. And when you're co-packing, you've got someone else in charge of your manufacturing, that gets a lot harder. There's a lot that's out of your control, but we can still control a lot of our own pricing. And we're investing heavily in automation and equipment. And we have been able to get financing for that and new market tax credits. So that's really good money if you can get it. You have to live in a new market tax credit zone, our plant is. So the equipment is enabling us to keep the pricing stable. And I'm hopeful that we can even get better margins when we get more equipment online. Happy to talk to you about that further. But the good thing is we're also in a small community, and we're not in Atlanta, we're not in Augusta, we're outside of Augusta. So the wages can be a little lower because the cost of living is a little lower. Having said that, we have good ground to visit. So we really do believe in providing good quality jobs at a big competitive. I have a whole different slide deck. There's like 8 different slides. So anyway, if I stumbled a little bit, it's because I was expecting a different slide deck. Michael, I should have dropped my slide deck. But anyway, it was a whole about innovation because I had it geared more to a business audience. And this was the slide deck for Visit Lakeisha. I also want to make a difference if folks didn't have to send. So Mike, you the other talk. There you go. Absolutely. If somebody wants to give me $10 million, we're on. Game on. It's financing. It's just the reality of financing. I could not get trying to find angel investors, private equity investors, banks, you name it, any sort of access to capital to renovate those stores. And the only investors I could find said, well, first of all, I'd have to give them over half the company because I did, you know, I had to give them something. And then you had to deal with environmental regs for storage tanks for gas. Gas are volatile, so the bank to loan you money. Government loans for a convenience store that sells gas. Again, few barriers. I couldn't find any programs. So it all came down to financing. I couldn't get the money for it. And not only that, their stores looked awful. I mean, we're talking $500,000 to renovate if I wanted to save those. Plus all the environmental remediation, zoning, I'm not in one Republican, Randy, all the regulations, I'm independent. Yeah. Yeah. So I would love to, and it's still potentially as we grow the company. I would like maybe in 10 years to be able to own and operate like 3 stores. Nothing would make me happy. It's just I have to face reality. I don't have to do it. My grandfather built his stores. He was it on the highway. There was competition. So it was easy for me, not easy, but it was a blank check. Anyone have ideas? Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Fascinating. I don't think you asked. How many of you stopped at Thank you for sharing the story. Really interesting. Wish you all the success in the wall moving forward. On behalf of you, make a donation to Polio Plus, which, as you know, is Rotary's initiative to one I'm sorry. Polio. That was a good number. We're going to do that today. Polio. Thank you. And thank you. We do have some programs coming up. Next week we don't. Don't come next week, just a reminder. We'll have a City of LaGrange public safety presentation. It'll be Chief Five and Chief Bradfield. December 6th, Mateo's going to give us an update and his experience at LaGrange College. So please come to December 13th. We'll have a chance on Sunday. Definitely want to do it. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Don't forget the board meeting for the bridge.